When I was a kid, my family lived in a two-story house that we rented. My mom worked late, so on most days after school, I was home alone. One evening, I got home a bit later than usual. It was already getting dark, and the inside of the house was dim. As I stepped in, I called out.
Mom?
From upstairs, I heard a soft voice answer.
I'm here.
I called again,
Mom?
and once more, that same voice from the second floor replied.
I'm here.
Thinking my mom was calling me toward her, I started walking upstairs. When I reached the top step, I tried calling her one more time. This time, the reply came from the very last room at the end of the hallway. A quiet, drawn-out.
I'm here.
Something strange stirred in my chest. But I was eager to see her, so I slowly made my way toward that room. Just then, I heard the front door open downstairs.
Shin, are you home?
My mom's bright, cheerful voice echoed through the house. My mind snapped back to reality, and a wave of fear rushed over me. I quickly turned around to run back down the stairs. But as I glanced toward the last room, I saw the door shift. A small creak, followed by a soft. The door opened just a little. Through that narrow gap, I saw something I will never forget. A pale white face, staring straight at me.
A while ago, I started hearing a baby crying outside almost every night, along with a mother softly trying to soothe it. Since there's a small park right across from my apartment building, I always assumed it was just a neighborhood mom taking her fussy baby out for some fresh air. And because I'm pregnant, that crying and the mother's gentle murmuring didn't bother me at all. If anything, it felt strangely comforting. Sometimes, I even found myself looking forward to hearing them. Last Sunday, after meeting some friends, I got home around 10 at night. When I walked past the park, I saw the same mother sitting on a bench, holding her baby like always. She had the child wrapped warmly in a baby blanket, rocking it gently. There was a soft smile on her face as she whispered to the little one. It looked like a peaceful, loving scene between a mother and her baby. Because I'd grown fond of the pair, I walked over and greeted her.
Must be tough calling the baby every night.
I said cheerfully. But she didn't react at all. It was like I wasn't even there. She just kept murmuring to the bundle in her arms. Expressionless, mechanical, almost like a broken doll. When I stepped closer, I realized something was terribly wrong. Her face, even with the smile, she looked like someone on the verge of death. Pale, gray, completely drained of life. Feeling awkward, I tried to keep the conversation going and said,
I'm actually due pretty soon myself.
That was when the woman finally lifted her head. She stared at me with empty, lifeless eyes. She said nothing, just stared for several long, uncomfortable seconds. Then, she slowly loosened the baby blanket in her arms and threw the baby toward me. Instinctively, I reached out and caught it. The moment it touched my arms, I froze. It was hard, solid. Not a real baby. A doll. I yelped and dropped it on the ground. And then I heard the crying again. But it wasn't coming from the doll. It was coming from her. The woman was crying using her own throat to make the sound of a wailing infant. The same familiar cry I'd heard every night. I ran home in a panic and told my husband everything. He listened, worry creeping across his face, and asked,
But you ran straight home, right? Doesn't that mean she knows where we live now?
Hearing that made my blood run cold. My whole body trembled uncontrollably. He wrapped his arms around me, whispering,
It's okay. You're safe. Don't worry.
But right now, that same familiar baby cry is echoing outside again. If I just pull back the curtain, I know I'll see her. Standing across the street, staring straight up at our window, watching. What am I supposed to do?
I used to work the night shift at a 24-hour convenience store. The store was in a pretty ordinary location, and we didn't get many customers. Late at night, it was usually just me alone. One night, around 2 in the morning, I was in the small back room behind the counter, organizing the accounts. Out of habit, I glanced at the security monitor. On the screen, There was a woman standing in front of the refrigerated drink section. She was wearing a dark coat, and her hair was very long, so long that it almost completely covered her face. She wasn't moving at all. Her head was lowered. Oh, there's a customer, I thought, assuming she would grab a drink and come to the counter. But a long time passed. She didn't move. Something felt wrong. So I stepped out of the back room and looked toward the drink aisle. There was no one there. The entire aisle was empty. I froze for a moment, thinking the camera feed might be delayed or malfunctioning. I went back into the back room and looked at the monitor again. She was still there, standing in the exact same spot. Her posture, the angle of her head, even her distance from the camera, nothing had changed. I walked out again and went directly to the drink section. Still no one. When I returned to the back room and looked at the monitor, she was there again, as if only the camera could see her. Cold sweat ran down my back. After that night, every time I worked the night shift, the woman would appear on the monitor. Always between 1 and 3 in the morning. Always standing in the same spot. She never came to the counter. She never checked out. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and told the store manager what had been happening. That night, he stayed to work the shift with me. Around midnight, the two of us sat in the back room watching the security monitor. When the woman appeared, we decided to check together. One of us stayed by the doorway. The other walked straight to the drink section. Once again, there was no one there. We both returned to the back room and looked at the monitor together. This time, the woman was no longer standing by the drink section. I was about to say something when the manager suddenly told me not to speak. His face had gone pale. He was staring at the screen in terror. At first, all I saw on the monitor was the empty store. Then, after several seconds, I realized something. Reflected in the television screen, I could see more than just the manager and myself. There was another face. The woman's face. She was standing right behind us, her face pressed between ours, watching the security monitor with us. I don't know which one of us ran first. All I know is that we both panicked and fled the store, running straight outside. I quit the next day.
A girl on the internet once said that during a difficult period of her life, she had a dream in which she had already died. Someone came to pick her up. To her surprise, it was Ginger, the only pet hamster she had ever owned. Ginger led the way, grumbling the whole time, asking why she had come so early. He hadn't even earned enough to get her a proper place to live yet. She was confused and kept looking around at the strange surroundings. So Ginger finally explained,
Pets have much shorter lives than humans. So we come here first. We work, earn our pay, and exchange it for a home where we can live with our owners when they arrive.
but Ginger was so small. No matter how hard he worked, he still hadn't managed to earn enough for a house, big enough for a human. He looked terribly guilty about it. I walked for a long time, one ahead and one behind. Ginger went from complaining to sounding sad, and in the end, he kept apologizing over and over. The girl told him she didn't mind at all, that she was happy to see him again, happier than anything. It didn't matter where they lived, but Ginger wouldn't listen. He just cried harder, shoulders shaking, unable to calm down. So she stopped walking, sat down by the roadside, and gently held him until he could breathe again. When she looked around, she noticed that the whole place was filled with people reuniting with their pets. Someone was holding a cat still wearing its little work uniform, face smudged with dirt. Another person was surrounded by big dogs in suits, all fighting for a chance to crawl into their owner's arms. Finally, Ginger seemed calm. The girl opened her mouth to speak, but suddenly, Ginger grabbed onto her pant leg and started running in the opposite direction of the crowd.
You shouldn't die yet.
He shouted as he pulled her along.
Come later, much, much later.
She didn't want to go back, so she tried to resist, pushing off the ground with all her strength. And then, her foot hit the edge of her bed frame. She woke up. It felt as though Ginger had been desperately trying to tell her.
Please don't die. I know you're tired. But stay a little longer in the world where I can't go. Live the life I couldn't live with you. I'll wait for you. And when your time finally comes, I promise I'll have a warm, bright home ready. So please keep going.
This story happened 3 years ago. At the time, I had just moved to Tokyo and was living alone. The first few days in my new apartment were perfectly normal. Then one night, around 2 in the morning, I started hearing quiet, fragmented voices. They were low and indistinct, as if whoever was speaking didn't want to be heard. It sounded like a young man and a young woman talking. At first, I didn't think much of it. I assumed the noise was coming from a neighboring apartment. Places in Tokyo often have thin walls, and I didn't want to make a big deal out of nothing. But the voices came back the next night. And the night after that. Always around the same time. Always the same 2 people speaking softly. By the 5th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided that the next day, I would finally complain. Strangely, once I made that decision, I felt calmer. The irritation faded, and in its place, a strange curiosity began to grow. What were they talking about every night? That night, instead of trying to ignore the sound, I listened carefully. That was when I realized something was wrong. The voices weren't coming from next door. I held my breath and listened again. They were coming from inside my apartment. From the hallway between my bedroom and the living room. A chill ran down my spine. My bedroom door wasn't fully closed. Through the narrow gap, I thought I could see 2 figures standing in the hallway. A man and a woman. Their shapes were blurred, as if covered by a thin layer of mist. They looked almost transparent. They stood close together, their voices lowered. Then I heard the man speak in a calm voice.
Is he asleep?
The woman answered almost immediately.
Looks like he is.
My entire body went rigid. In the next moment, I watched the 2 figures pass straight through the bedroom door and enter my room. I shut my eyes instantly and didn't dare to move. The voices continued inside the room. Their tone was calm and natural, like they were discussing something completely ordinary. All I could do was pretend I was fast asleep. I didn't turn over. I didn't breathe too loudly. I didn't even dare to swallow. I don't know how much time passed. It felt impossibly long, and yet strangely short. Then one of the voices suddenly said,
That's not right.
The room went silent for a single second. Then the man's voice came from right beside my bed. So close I could feel it. In a low voice, he said,
He's listening to us.
That night, I suddenly woke up in the middle of my sleep. I was drenched in sweat. The entire house was silent as I tiptoed downstairs to use the bathroom. When I reached the corner of the staircase, I noticed the light in the tatami room was still on, and I heard a faint sound coming from inside. A bad feeling crept over me. I slid the door open just a crack. The next second, my whole body froze. My father was strangling my mother. Her body twitched once before going limp. Then he dragged her across the floor and stuffed her into the closet. The scene was too vivid, too real. I swallowed the scream rising in my throat, ran back to my room and hid under my blanket. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, my father was calmly toasting bread, as if nothing had happened. "Where's Mom?" I tried my best to sound normal.
She left early for a business trip.
He said with his usual smile. My stomach dropped. If what I saw last night was real. That smile was terrifying. Before leaving, my father asked if I wanted to walk with him to the station. But I told him my summer break started today. His face changed for just one brief second. But that second was enough to make my skin crawl. After he left, I rushed to the tatami room to check. The closet was empty. I nearly collapsed onto the floor. Was everything I saw just a dream? That's when my father's voice suddenly came from behind me.
What are you looking for?
I jerked around in shock. He was holding a toolbox with a hammer and a saw inside.
For repairs?
He said flatly. My throat was too dry to respond. I went to the kitchen to pour myself some water. But then I caught a sour, rotten smell in the air. Flies were buzzing around the cellar door. My heart was pounding out of my chest as I reached down and opened it. My mother was curled up inside, folded like a broken doll. I fell to my knees and cried until I couldn't breathe. My father appeared behind me again at some point.
There was nothing I could do.
He murmured.
She wanted to leave us.
I couldn't process anything anymore. I ran back to my room and locked the door. Amid the chaos spinning in my head, I noticed a crumpled note under my bed. Hands shaking, I picked it up. It said,
"Dad, run. Kenta has gone mad. Mom."
Those words stabbed into my chest like needles. I stared at the note for a long time without saying a word. Then slowly I tore it into pieces and dropped them into the trash. After that day, both my father and mother disappeared, and they were never seen again.
One night, my girlfriend and I went for a drive in the mountains. After the sun went down, everything around us slowly faded into darkness. We decided it was time to head home. Somewhere along the way, we must have taken a wrong turn. We stopped in front of an old tunnel we'd never seen before. The lights inside were dim and weak, barely illuminating the road ahead. The place felt wrong, but there was no other route. Turning back wasn't an option. So, with no choice, we drove into the tunnel. Something struck the rear windshield. My girlfriend screamed and turned around, but there was nothing there. No one behind us. No cars. Nothing. I kept driving, gripping the steering wheel, just wanting to get out of the tunnel. The sounds started coming from everywhere. The windows, the roof, all around the car. Something was hitting us. We were terrified. I slammed on the accelerator and sped through the tunnel as fast as I could. When we finally burst out the other side, we didn't stop driving until we reached a gas station at the foot of the mountain. Under the bright lights, we stepped out to check the car. Every window was covered. Completely covered with countless handprints, all different sizes. Still shaking, we begged the station staff to help clean it. We stayed inside the car, staring blankly through the glass as they worked. After a while, one of the employees tilted his head and walked over to the driver's side. He knocked on the window. Confused, we rolled it down. Then he spoke.
"Those handprints.
He paused.
They're on the inside of the glass."
This is a story my mother told me. Some of the details may be unclear to her now. My mother isn't the kind of person who jokes or makes things up, so I don't believe this story was invented. This happened 6 years ago. At the time, I was in 4th grade, and my younger sister was in kindergarten. Every afternoon at 4 o'clock, my mother would go pick her up. It was winter, and that day was especially cold. The kindergarten was very close to our home, about a 10-minute walk. Back then, my mother worked part-time in the mornings, so every afternoon she walked to the kindergarten to bring my sister home. That day was no different. She picked up my sister and held her hand as they walked along a narrow shortcut beside the rice fields, slightly away from the residential area. My mother said that while they were walking, my sister suddenly started saying strange things.
"Mom, I see a very dark road. What would happen if I walk straight into it? There's a red car. There's a woman inside, looking down at the ground. Then a man gets out of the car and says he wants to take me with him. That woman told me to go with her down that dark road."
Along the way, my sister noticed a small shed by the rice fields, a temporary hut used for storing farming tools. She kept saying,
"Let's go inside. Let's go in there."
She even pulled hard on my mother's hand, trying to drag her toward it. The shed didn't look locked, but it was still someone else's property, and my mother didn't want to step into the muddy fields. So she firmly pulled my sister away and continued toward home. My sister was usually an honest child who didn't say much, so my mother found her behavior unsettling. They argued and struggled the whole way back, and it took them nearly 30 minutes to get home instead of the usual 10. As soon as they entered the house, my sister suddenly let go of my mother's hand, grabbed her kindergarten backpack, ran upstairs, and slammed her bedroom door shut. This was completely unlike her. My mother chased after her and ran upstairs as well. But on the second floor, where there were only 2 rooms, my sister was nowhere to be found. When my mother stepped into my sister's bedroom, she noticed a strong metallic smell in the air, like rusted iron. At that moment, her phone rang. It was my sister's kindergarten teacher. The teacher asked,
Why haven't you come to pick up your child yet?
My mother froze.
I already picked her up,
she replied.
She's home.
The teacher sounded shocked.
But we haven't seen you at all today.
Just then, I came home from school. My mother grabbed me, told me what had just happened, and insisted that I go with her back to the kindergarten. At the time, I didn't understand anything she was saying. When we arrived, my sister was still there, standing by herself, on the verge of tears, waiting for our mother. A week later, when my mother was changing my sister's bed sheets, she lifted the sheet and saw something on the mattress underneath. There was a small handprint, dark red and black in color. It was right near where my sister's head would rest when she slept. My mother screamed and panicked, scrubbing the mark away immediately. And she said that once again, she smelled that same scent. The smell of rusted iron.
Like the story? Hit that like button, subscribe for more spine-chilling tales, share it with your friends, and let me know what you think in the comments. More horror is coming your way.